The COVID-19 pandemic shook the world.
This is the defining global health crisis of our time. The days, weeks, and months ahead will be a test of our resolve.
Today, I am officially declaring a national emergency.
Now is the time for everyone to stop non-essential contact with others and to stop all unnecessary travel.
The less travel, the more we can contain the virus.
And the world economy went through one of its toughest times in history. Even before it reached Papua New Guinea, business was affected.
Right now, I'm already impacted because I do business, my suppliers are in China. So I can't contact them anymore. They actually, factories have shut down. So immediately, my business has been affected. I'm running low in stock. So that's small sort of things. Maybe if you look at the other bigger suppliers, bigger businesses, that's probably, they are bigger story. I am imagining that if a virus hits PNG and if it's here, we have no systems in place to actually control. So business will begin to shut down.
With our client, we have been told to minimize travel, overseas travels, restriction to traveling to certain areas unless it is necessary. We've got a directive from our CEO putting travel bans into these affected countries and regions. The side team, the Lihir side team, had taken measures to ensure that people come in and out are screened properly, obviously with the help of the health department.
PNG government organized preventive measures against the worldwide pandemic, setting up facilities and personnel with whatever resource that was available.
So far, our nation is has only one case established so far, but that one case is an indication of breach of security protocols we put in place at Jackson's Airport, and we've now taken proactive steps to go back and pinpoint to the date that breach has taken place. In fact, from today, looking at retrospectively 7 days ago, because of the fact that the coronavirus has a propagation time of a window of 14 days, we're now stepping back 14 days from today to take stock. And a detailed direction has been given to our health minister, our immigration minister, our customs officials, our police minister, and our defense team to go back and really take stock of who has come in 14 days ago for us to have a deeper analysis as to what has taken place.
After going into initial lockdown, Parliament passed a bill to extend the state of emergency by a further 2 months, heightening security operations and preventive measures in the country. While some criticized the government upon this move that it was going to affect livelihoods severely, it later turned out to be considered by many as a good move in closing international borders and preventing the spread of COVID-19 earlier than many other countries. This also resulted in only 8 positive cases of coronavirus reported in the country, with 0 deaths to date.
There would be many countries in the world that would be quite envious of PNG at the moment, because we've had 0 deaths from coronavirus, at least that's as we understand it. And they wouldn't be envious of our health system because it's fragile. So if one did have a major pandemic affecting here, we'd have severe difficulties.
So the question of whether to lift strict restrictions and save livelihoods or keep strict restrictions to save lives has been the biggest question for many governments around the world over the past few months in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic. This has been the very question that the PNG government has been dealing with criticism from various pockets of society and extensions of the state of emergency. and eventually this has led to the passing of the Pandemic Act 2020. So what is the status of restrictions now after the passing of the new Pandemic Act? There are 6 main categories of pandemic measures in place. International and domestic travel measures, provincial coordination measures, burial of deceased persons measures, customs duties measures, COVID-19 testing measures, and COVID-19 surveillance and testing measures. Restrictions have been relaxed on certain businesses such as nightclubs, which will operate only on Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays and Saturdays, licensed gambling venues, which will only operate on Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays and Sundays, licensed horse racing will only operate on Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays and Saturdays at listed venues only. Licensed horse racing will only operate on Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays and Saturdays at listed venues only. Among other areas where restrictions have been relaxed, affiliated sporting codes will now be allowed to train or take part in matches upon given approval by the PNG Sports Foundation. Religious activities in the country will continue, but churches are urged to practice social distancing of at least 1.5 meters between persons and hand washing with soap or sanitizer. However, religious activities at a bigger scale like provincial and national church gatherings, conventions, crusades, and provincial or national outreach programs remain banned. This is because the ban on gathering of 100 people or more at any one time is still in effect. This has sparked strong criticism from church circles in PNG, where church figures and Christian professionals are questioning restrictions still in place for religious gatherings when restrictions on nightclubs and gambling areas are relaxed. This has led to Prime Minister James Marape explaining the reasons of the measures undertaken in the new Pandemic Act and also inviting proposals and suggestions, especially from church circles, on the best way forward. It will be interesting to see how this will be dealt with, as the opposition team in Parliament has also expressed concern on how the bill was tabled in Parliament. As Papua New Guineans adapt to the new normal, and as a second wave of the pandemic is being talked about in other countries, one can only say that the battle is far from over.